I know a big number of people in this room, but I don't know every one of you. My name is WSaucier. I'm an attorney. I've practiced law for 50 years, and I've had the privilege of knowing your judge all these years. My main practice was in Rapides Parish, but I have handled cases in front of all of the judges that have ever sat in the 35th Judicial District. And when I learned that I would be the one to have this honor of introducing to you a man who really needs not much introduction at all, I visited with two people. I visited with Judge Willett and also visited with the clerk of court to check some facts and figures before I came and shared some of this information with you. And we talked about a little bit about the 35th Judicial District Court. And if you'll indulge me and just bear with me for a moment, I had to write some of this down because it involves a number of different dates. But I want to give you a little history of the 35th Judicial District. Go back in history to 1803, the Louisiana Purchase was made. The United States of America bought the Louisiana Purchase, what later became 15 states, 828 square miles of land. The purchase price was $15 million. That comes out to a little under 3 cents per acre. Fast forward 9 years to 1812. Louisiana becomes a state in 1812. We were the 18th state to come into the Union. America consisted of 17 states before Louisiana came in. It was almost 56 years until Grant Parish was established. There was a Rapides Parish, there was a Wynn Parish. Grant was not established until 1868 as part of the Reconstruction after the Civil War. It's made up of part of Rapides and part of Wynn, part of the old parishes, to come up with Grant Parish. From that day forward, Grant Parish fell into the 8th Judicial District Court, which is in Winfield. And that lasted for 108 years until 1976. A year I remember well, I was licensed to practice law that year. From that time forward, we've had the 35th Judicial District Court. There have been 5 judges. We're about to elect one of them twice, so I guess that'll make 6. From 1976 to 1983, our sheriff's grandfather, Brandon McCain, was the first judge. He was the oldest lawyer in the parish, and he was appointed the judge. The next oldest lawyer was my friend, Billy Lutz, who was appointed the first district attorney in the 35th Judicial District Court. Judge McCain served 7 years, 76 through 83. Then Judge Lutz ran, I believe, without opposition and served 10 years, 1984 through 1994. He retired, leaving 2 years on his second term, and that was filled by a lawyer appointed from Alexandria, Leonard Furrow. Leonard was a well-liked guy, both as an attorney and as a jurist, a very smart man. He filled in for 2 years, and then Alan Craik was elected, and he was elected the youngest judge at that time in the state of Louisiana. I think Alan was 26 years old. He served, from 1996 to 2008 for a period of 12 years. In 2008, Judge Willett was elected. He has served as your judge in the 35th Judicial District Court for 18 years. He is the longest serving judge in the history of the district. And keep in mind, when I talk about Grant Parish, don't confuse it with the judicial district. I had the privilege of handling cases before every judge that sat on the bench in the 35th Judicial District. And I promised not to tell only one more story. Judge McCain, and we all affectionately called him Brandy by his first name. Judge McCain ran a tough courtroom. I had the privilege of trying the first civil jury trial to completion in the 35th Judicial District. Lawyer on the other side was my good friend Russell Potter, who couldn't be with us today. I talked to him earlier. And Judge McCain, we picked a jury at 8 o'clock in the morning. We put on evidence from both sides, did closing arguments. The jury was instructed, retired, made a decision, and we were out by 5 o'clock that afternoon. Brandy threatened to throw both me and Russell in jail during the process of the trial. It was the blind leading the blind. It was my first jury trial ever. It was Russell Potter's first jury trial ever. We had graduated at the same time. And it was Judge McCain's first civil jury trial as a judge and the first to be tried in the 35th Judicial District. And I'll tell you all that to get to this point. The 35th is a young judicial district. What you're going to do in this race is you're going to make history. You have a judge that, as I said, has served already 18 years. I want to tell you what we look for, and you know, lawyers catch a lot of flack. Some of it deserved, some of it not. We try to get involved in every judicial race, and I'm going to tell you what we look for in a judicial candidate. And you, as business people, employers, employees, landowners, citizens, people who raise your children in this parish, are in the same boat as we are. We just happen to make our living in these courts. The first thing we look for is integrity. You've got to have a judge who's willing to fade some heat. In every matter, whether it's a civil or criminal matter, you have opposing sides. He's got to make a decision. Both parties don't win. It's a tough job. There's tough decisions to make. And sometimes you rub people the wrong way. But what you want is a lawyer to become a judge who has the integrity and the backbone to make the right decision, apply the right law fairly to everybody. One who doesn't show favoritism. I can't think of a candidate that stands taller in that category than my friend Daniel Willett. He has the integrity. He has the backbone. In criminal cases, oftentimes, and you've heard of plea bargains, you have to have plea bargaining, or you would back up the court 20 years if you weren't able to plea bargain. In those criminal cases, you've got a prosecutor representing the state of Louisiana. He's not representing the victim, but the state to enforce the law. You've got a defense counsel who's representing the perpetrator, the accused, the criminal. And you've got a victim out there, and the victim has no one representing. Oftentimes, and this is not just in the 35th, defense lawyers and prosecutors will make a deal. They'll come up with, this man's going to plead guilty, and in return, he's going to be given this sentence, and they'll come up with their sentence. You need a judge, because he sits in the middle. The judge has to accept that plea, but you need a judge who will stand his ground. You need a judge who's not afraid to say, this is too good of a deal. Someone was seriously injured, or someone was killed. It deserves jail time. Judge Willett can, has, and will hold the line, and he'll make sure that justice is served. He won't let people off with a slap on the wrist. He does the same thing in civil cases, which was my area of practice. He reads the briefs. He studies the pleadings. When I go in for a pretrial, he knows what my case is about. He knows what the defense lawyer's case is about. And he's going to arrive at a decision. And I can tell you, he's got the intestinal fortitude to make the right decision. It's not always in my favor or in the other guy's favor, but he will make the right decision. Favoritism is not shown in the civil cases in his courtroom. We look for knowledge of the substantive law. We want a judge who knows the law. There are people who go through law school and never learn what the law is. You've got a judge who knows the civil law, he knows the criminal law. And with that, he also knows procedure and evidence. Crucial. Whether you're the victim of a crime or you've been injured by someone else's fault, or you've injured somebody else. You want a judge who, at a trial, lets in the right evidence and keeps out irrelevant evidence. He's the judge that instructs the jury. He gives them the law. He tells them what they're to consider, what they're not to consider. He runs an orderly courtroom. I can't recommend anybody over our Judge Willett. You also want somebody with experience. Judge Willett practiced law for 10 years before he ran for judge. He practiced with a firm, that same firm where my friend Russell Potter practices today, Stafford, Stewart and Potter, for 5 years. And he and a partner, Gary Tillman, opened up a law practice, and they had their own private practice for another 5 years before he ran for judge. He's been involved in all aspects of the courtroom before he became a judge. Sometimes we get judges elected who don't know where the courthouse is located. You don't have that here. You've got an experienced jurist. And I'm telling you, that really comes to light when you see the kind of cases he has to handle. You think of, well, it's just a divorce. Yeah, it's custody of children. It's child support. It's division of property. It's a tough decision. Nobody comes out happy. I used to do that kind of work, and I always said, a divorce is the worst case you can be in. Nobody's happy in the end. But somebody, when the parties can't agree, has to make those decisions. You need somebody who's going to know the case, know the people, know what the case is about, and apply the correct law. And I'll tell you another thing he does. He's not shy to tell the parties, if y'all don't work this out, I got to work it out for you. And you're not going to like the way I work it out, because I'm not going to like working it out. I can't give you both full custody of this child. And just an example. I just can't, I can't score him high enough. All that said, the only people who can vote in this election that's coming up are residents, citizens of Grant Parish. All of us from Rapides and surrounding parishes that want to help him get reelected, and that are here tonight, we don't even vote in Grant Parish. There are a little over 13,000 people, registered voters, in Grant Parish. You're all here for a fundraiser, and everybody has written a check. I have one in my pocket. I would ask that all of you take home with you this idea. Contact people you know, through your business, through your church, through your families. Contact people who are registered voters in this parish, in Grant, and get their vote. The vote has to turn out. This is going to be at a time of the year where there is expected to be a low voter turnout, and that always affects elections. We can help Judge Willett with our contributions to pay for the expense of a race, but where he needs your help is to get those voters out and get them to vote right in this election. I'll tell you a personal story that I had. 18 years ago, my friend and candidate, Danny Willett, asked me to support him for judge in this parish. And it was a tougher decision than that decision is usually. His opponent had worked for me for 5 years, a young lawyer that I thought the world of. I didn't feel like he was ready to be a judge. I made the decision to support Judge Willett. Over the years, I learned that I made the right decision. And I think the thing that impressed me the most during that entire campaign, candidate Danny Willett never said anything disparagingly or derogatory about his opponent. He ran on his qualifications. You've had him for 18 years. You need to keep this man in office. And with all that said, I want to introduce you to my good friend and yours, Warren Daniel Willett, Judge, 35th Judicial District.
So good.